San Quentin, what good do you think you do? Do you think I'll be different when you're through? You bend my heart and mind and you warp my soul. Your stone walls turn my blood a little cold. San Quentin, may you rot and burn in hell.
Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of the Flintlock Faction, the self-appointed scummiest show on the internet. I'm your host, Jay Flintlock. Today, we're actually going to have a bit of a wholesome episode. We're going to talk about raising children in society today as an anarchist. We're going to go over specifically educating children. I am blessed with the lovely Lady Voluntary. Say hi to the folks.
Hey, everyone.
So, as in all episodes with new guests, we'd like to go through with Anarchist Anonymous. Give us your story.
My name is Ned.
Hello, Ned.
It's been 4,000 days since my last drink.
All right. Yeah. So I started off pretty liberal. My parents were both liberal. My dad works as a machinist, like in the union, and my mom's worked at schools, growing up. So we were always pretty lefty. And then college years, I was really into Obama, and, he was the greatest thing ever. And I voted for him twice, and he was wonderful. And then after college, when I was working, I wasn't really into politics too much. But then the next presidential campaign it was Hillary versus Trump. And I never liked Hillary, even when I was a liberal. Just something about her always kind of bothered me. And then obviously I wasn't going to vote for Trump because he was nothing that I liked, still nothing that I like. So then I started watching John Stossel's show, and he was talking about Gary Johnson. And he had like his libertarian presidential debate, and I thought that was like a really good debate, and like because they were all really nice to each other, they all actually had ideas about policy, and then I was watching Stossel all the time, and then I started watching Kennedy's show, and then on Kennedy's show she would have Dave Smith and Michael Malice on there, and I started listening to their podcasts, and then from there I became libertarian throughout that process. And then it was like 6 months after becoming a libertarian, like the meme goes, it's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist. Yep. 6 months. Yep. That's pretty much exactly how it went with me. So, and then after kind of getting into that a little bit, I started reading more like anarchist and libertarian theory. And just ever since then, now for the last 5 years or so, just been obsessed with it. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's a process. It's a process. Mm-hmm. when you get the veil lifted. Some people it's a hard process. Some it's a very rapid process and your world shatters. That one was mine.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's been a lot of talk in the news lately about kids. I know that you went on my buddy's show, the Tactical Buffaloes, and we talked about you guys talked about child trafficking. What's it like raising a child in today's society from your perspective?
Oh.
Did I lose you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I have 3 kids. My oldest is 4, and then I have a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. So I'm still I still don't know what the hell I'm doing, basically. But basically, I just want to try to raise them without like a blind obedience to authority. Because I think at this age, I'm not going to be teaching them about like political theory and stuff. So basically, anytime they ask me a question, I want to give them an answer. And like if I have to tell them like, no, you can't do this, I don't want to be like, oh, just because I say so, you have to listen to me. I want to be able to give them a reason that I'm saying no. So they're not just like taught to just obey me just because I'm an authority figure.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise, when they ask, like my 4-year-old's like obsessed with police officers right now, which just like breaks my heart. But he's like, he wants to be I was asking him the other day, like what he wants to be when he grows up. And he was like, oh, a police officer.
Oh,
And
shit.
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, well, why do you want to be a police officer? He's like, well, because I want to help people.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, oh, well, cops don't really help people. They kind of just enforce the rules of the government. And then he's like, oh, okay, I want to be a superhero. So like, I just want to make sure he understands that what he sees on TV about police officers isn't necessarily, obviously what the truth is. So just kind of like gently, explaining the reality of the situation.
I mean, my dumbass fell for it. It's not hard for a kid to fall for the same fucking
Yeah.
ploy.
Right. Yeah. And especially because it's all over everything. Like any kids show, the cop is always like the good guy that you go to
Yep.
for help, or like the hero. So it's understandable.
It's a multi-billion-dollar propaganda machine that's been shoved down our throats since birth. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's easy to get sucked into, especially as a child, not being able to comprehend what you're saying very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So, so you've decided to homeschool your children. Can you tell us that process of how you came to that decision?
Yeah. So we always just figured, I think we would send them to school like when right after having kids. And so when we were looking for houses to buy, we were kind of looking at like the school districts and stuff. But then we found a house that was in a it was a nice house. It was affordable. It was within our budget, but it was like in a kind of a crappy school district. But then we were thinking like, oh, whatever. Like if he goes to elementary school at a crappy school, like all he's gonna do is learn the ABCs. It's not really a big deal. But then the more we thought about it, the more I was just like, well, and like as we were like getting more into libertarian theory too, we were just like, it's like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I might as well just teach them. And I've always kind of been interested in teaching in general anyway. So it kind of just was kind of an easy decision for us because I'm fortunate to not have to work. So it was a pretty simple decision. And then also obviously both being pretty anti-state, we don't want the government raising our kids, and the private schools around here are pretty expensive. And I'm not really a fan of like that kind of traditional schooling in general. So it was a pretty easy decision.
Okay. And so so when you homeschool your children, the state gives you a curriculum to go over, correct?
It depends on the state. So I'm in Wisconsin, and we have like pretty lax homeschool laws.
Oh, fucking
So,
rip. Like, how is everything over there?
Oh yeah, I'm only like an hour north of Kenosha.
Oh, fuck.
I don't even think it's a full hour, but yeah, I mean,
You cool, dude?
I mean, it's all over the news and stuff, but what's that?
I said, are you cool, dude?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're in a nice cushy suburb, so we're cool.
Okay. Sorry to derail the conversation.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, the Wisconsin state law. So in Wisconsin, we just have to have so many hours of schooling. So I think it's like 800 something hours we just have to have for starting with age 6. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then you just kind of log it for your own benefit, or unless they come to you and like request it. So and you can teach them anything. You don't have to teach them any specific subjects or anything. They don't have to take any tests, so it's in Wisconsin anyway. I know other states are a lot more strict about it, where you have to have a certain curriculum and you have to take the standardized tests. But here we've got it pretty good.
That's fucking awesome. So like you can just teach them about the Whiskey Rebellion, about the Pennsylvania Line Mutiny, the Battle of Athens, like all of it. Just like, hey, the state will come for you, and just teach them that as their history class from a young age. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do they, okay, so how How do you graduate? Do you take the GED or what?
You don't. No, you don't have to. So in Wisconsin, you're the administrator of your own school. So you just create the diploma for them, and that's that. I mean, they can take the GED if they want, but it doesn't necessarily help them for like their future. So.
Okay. Do you try to like push? Well, I don't know if you push your kids at all. I know my parents. I lived in an Asian household, and my father was strict, even though he was white.
Mhm.
My mother was Asian, so like they pushed me to specific things. They saw I was
Yeah.
horrible with math, and I did not live up to that honor, and so they pushed me to very specific things, including college.
Yeah.
Sorry to go on a tirade, but I don't know how normal parents are. Do you push your kids to go like towards the direction of college or trade school, or just give them that choice?
Sorry, you cut off again. I heard something about trade school.
Oh, I'm asking. Are you going to? I'm sure. I think your kids. I think you mentioned your kids are younger. So, like, are you going to push your kids towards college or trade school, or just like give them, free reign, like pick whatever makes you happy? Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Okay. So we're not going to push them to do anything specific. It's just whatever they want to do. My husband's pretty anti-college, um, actually, which I think is kind of funny. I honestly don't care what they do as long as they're happy and productive. So it doesn't really matter to me if they go to college or not. Like I went to college, got an English degree, spent $40,000, and I don't work, so in that sense it was kind of useless. But then my husband went to school and he became an attorney, so I mean, in that sense, it works. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just whatever they want to do. I really don't care, and I think the future there's going to be a lot more like technological things that people will be working on, and school and education and everything is all going to be you're going to be able to do more of what you want to do instead of a select amount of like majors and stuff. So like I don't know, like if somebody's you can just if you can monetize pretty much anything you want to do now. So like if even if you just want to like have a podcast or I don't know, do graphic design or something, it's a lot easier to freelance now, I think, than it was before. So their opportunities are a lot more fruitful, I think, than mine were.
Okay. Do you have any obstacles that the government puts in your way when it comes to homeschooling?
Um, Not really. I mean, the only thing we have here is the amount of hours that you have to do, but even that, it's not a big deal. But we've been thinking about moving to a different state, and so when we look for different states that we want to move to, I do always look at the homeschool laws, and that that is part of our determining factor and how easy it is to homeschool.
Okay.
But no, I mean, this is kind of the way we keep the government out of our kids' life is just, I mean, we vaccinate and stuff, but I know a lot of people will homeschool so they don't have to don't have to give their kids vaccines.
That's awesome. That's admirable. You're cutting out the
Yeah.
indoctrination altogether.
Yeah, exactly. So
Do you come across any like social barriers? Like when you tell your friends or you tell your family that you're going to homeschool, do you witness anyone like treating you differently because of it?
I mean, I think it's more in my head than it is in theirs. Like whenever I bring it up, like if people will be like, "Oh, your son's starting school, where is he going to go to school?" And like I immediately feel kind of awkward saying, "Oh, we're actually homeschooling," just because I think that their impression of me is going to be negative. But pretty much every single time I bring it up, they are excited about it, and they're like, "Oh, that's actually really cool. It's cool that you're doing that." So it's more in my head, I think, than other people's. But I have had a couple family members who are just like, "Oh, your kid's gonna be the weirdo, socially awkward
Wow, fuck you, dude.
kid." I know, and I'm just like, the weirdest people I know went to public school. So it's like, I don't know, like I don't understand that stereotype, but whatever.
Okay. So what do you teach your kids? Like, do you immerse them in like anarchy, or do you just like try to keep politics out of it?
I mean, we don't really talk politics because it doesn't really come up naturally. I mean, me and my husband do, so they might overhear some stuff. But like, we have books like the Tuttle Twins books. I don't know if you've heard of those. They're like,
That was one of the questions that came up actually.
yeah. So like, we'll read the Tuttle Twins, and it's like there'll be stuff about the law and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And then we have like books about like Bitcoin that are for kids so they can learn about crypto because that's probably going to be in their future.
Dude,
And so
I
that way
should
they
read
kind
that
of,
book
yeah,
because I have
I know, like,
no idea how it works. I
yeah,
need a
it goes
fucking
over my
children's
head
book.
too. Yeah. And I honestly, this book really does help. It's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So yeah, so little things like that we'll introduce, but we don't like force them to learn, anything, especially being so young. But
Your kid's gonna be more woke and smarter than me at the age of 10 than I was like 2 years ago.
right. That's my hope.
Okay. Tuttle Twins. Any other like educational books geared to children, or do they kind of have the monopoly on it?
Yeah, I think they pretty much have it. But then like Julie Borowski came out with a book, I think within the last year. Like it's based on the iPencil. It's nobody knows how to make a pizza about all the different people have to come together to put one pizza together. So
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, the Tuttle Twins pretty much cover everything.
Do you think your child's gonna encounter obstacles when it comes to status? I mean, and your kid's gonna understand how the world works at such a young age.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know because for me, obviously, I grew up being a statist, so I don't know what it would be like, being a kid and just like being so woke at a young age. I don't know. Um, it should be. I don't think that because I don't think kids really talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know. So I don't think it would create any like social barriers. Um, I don't know. That's a good question. I really don't know how. I hope it doesn't have any like negative effects on them, but it might be kind of a burden to bear knowing, the way the world works and not, living in bliss, ignorantly.
Yeah. Oh, the curse of knowledge.
Right.
Okay, Gorilla Instructor asks if you teach your child Battle Drill 1 Alpha.
No, I have no idea what that is.
Okay. Take that, Gorilla Instructor. We're not teaching
Sorry.
we're not raising fucking child armies here. This is not fucking Africa. I don't know if that's insensitive to say. But I mean, do you think that, okay, this is a funny question. Do you think that your child's rebellious stage is him going to be voting for a Democrat or Republican?
Oh my God.
Being a
It's
statist,
very
like just the opposite. Like I'm going to wear a suit and tie, and I'm going to be a
right. Oh, I hope not. Oh my gosh.
it's my
But
worst
it is funny
nightmare,
though,
dude.
because when they go through like rebellious stages, like right now, my 2-year-old is just like a terrible two. Like it's just like really bad right now. But then I just think to myself, all right, you're just being a little anti-authoritarian. I'm not gonna like. I try to think of it in a positive way. It's like, yeah, good
Damn.
question me, yeah. But it is hard, but it makes me a little proud. But it is
Fighting the man,
very
but you're the
difficult.
man.
Yeah,
That sucks.
exactly.
Okay, when coming about the conversation of the rights of your children, do you think that children have natural rights?
Of course.
But okay, we get into the conversation of, okay, my child did something wrong. My hypothetical child
Hmm.
did something wrong. Now I have to ground this child. Well, now I've committed theft against my child and I've violated his nap. Like, how do we get
Yeah.
around?
I think you can think of it in terms of kids don't have the like the cognitive ability to make certain decisions yet. So, once they reach a certain maturity, they can fully take responsibility for their actions, and you can't, do certain things like force them to stay in their bedroom. But at a certain, when they're younger, obviously they don't have the ability to make certain decisions for themselves, and you do have to teach them, safety. If a kid's running out into the street, you can't just let them run out into the street. You have to like stop them, even if there's not a car coming, but you have to stop them so they know that they're not supposed to do that. So I mean, yeah, so I don't think that's violating their rights. It's just protecting them.
Now, do you decide when they are mature enough for rights, or do they decide?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think we'll just get to that point at some time where it's just kind of obvious.
Kind of a natural,
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the word? Starts with a C. Not consensus. Oh, well. Like a natural point in which you both come to the realization is what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. And it could be like 16, it could be 14, it could be 18. I mean, it's probably going to be different with every kid. But, I think we'll just kind of come to it when we do. I don't know. That's a good question.
Do you let your kid watch Paw Patrol?
Ugh.
Oh, there it is.
He likes Paw Patrol, but he doesn't actually watch it. He just likes like the toys.
Okay. Do you support
and Marshall is his favorite, not Chase.
Okay. Do you support defunding the German Shepherd?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Well, actually, I don't know, because they're kind of like a voluntary force. I don't think they take taxpayer funds.
Wow. You really threw me for a loop there. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, watch it sometime. No, I don't know.
I'll have to now.
Yeah.
What other propaganda do you run into with your child? Is it something that you kind of just stumble upon, or
Yeah, like the copaganda is a big one.
Okay. Like
yeah. So like,
what other shows, or is it just everywhere?
It's everywhere. Like, I don't know. Have you heard of Blippi?
No.
Okay, it's like this guy on YouTube who like does like educational videos for kids. But like he has an episode where he's trying to solve a crime and he's talking to this police officer on a bike, and this, police officer is helping him, and Blippi's like, yeah, this is a police officer. They help us. And it just like say that kind of like obvious, like propaganda. And then he has like a song about police cars and stuff. And it's just like, for me, it's absolutely cringeworthy. But, if my kid ever asks about it, I'll just tell him the truth, It's something we see a lot, but it's not really. So I think so at his age anyway, it's not really a big deal. But I do try to like I'm not going to buy him a toy that's like a cop car,
Okay.
That kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Other than cops, let's see. I haven't seen a lot of. I don't think he's at that age yet, but like not his like preschool type age. There isn't a lot of like military propaganda that I've seen, surprisingly. There's a lot about like kids going to school, and he asks about that. Like, he wants to go to school, and then I'll just say, well, we'll do school at home, and then he's like fine with it.
Do you think your child will want to go to school eventually?
Possibly, yeah. And I'm not opposed to that. I probably wouldn't send him to a public school, but if he gets to that age where I think he's, capable of making that decision, then yeah, I don't mind. Some kids learn better in that kind of environment. So
what are your thoughts on private school, since you're not open to public school?
So in general, I'm just not a fan of what I like to call warehouse schooling, where the kids just kind of like sit in the classroom and at their little desks, all spaced evenly apart, going from classroom to classroom at the sound of a bell, walking through hallways, like that being lectured at. I just don't feel like it's a very effective way to actually educate most people. Some people do okay in that environment, but for the most part, I don't think it's very effective. So like I'd be less, what am I trying to say? So like I'd be more okay with like him going to like a Montessori type of school where it's more hands-on,
okay,
than like a lecture style. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see how, how each kid is with learning and how they do and like which way, because my kids, they can't sit still. Like when they can't just sit at a desk and listen to me. So for now, anyway, it doesn't seem like something that would be good for them, but maybe down the road, once they calm down a little bit, then sure.
Okay. What about so my when I originally told my wife about having you on, she did propose a question. What about getting that social interaction from other kids that are not siblings or not in the house?
Yeah, so I think it's actually beneficial homeschooling in that sense because when you go to like a public school or even most private schools, you're kind of just like grouped in with people simply because they're the same age as you, even if you don't have a whole lot in common with them. So what's cool about homeschooling is you can interact with people of all ages, so like if I'm going to the grocery store, they come with me, they're interacting with like the cashiers and the other workers, or we go visit, other homeschool co-op. There's like homeschool co-ops that you can join where you get together with other homeschool families.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then you can like some school districts you can enroll your kids in the sports even if you're homeschooling. So there's like different ways to socialize. I honestly think it's probably better socialization because once you graduate high school, what are the chances that your job is going to be working with everybody your same age?
Right.
Like, that's pretty unlikely.
It also sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who you went to high school with, but like, I don't want to see most of those people ever fucking again.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you there. So I think it's like, it's better to prepare them to be able to socialize with people of all backgrounds and different ages, different genders. So
How do you feel about the homeschool co-ops?
we haven't joined any yet, but that's definitely something we're going to look into. So I mean, it would be nice because, like, for example, if I want my kid to learn a second language, and I don't know a second language, there are other families in the area who do, and they can, get together with multiple kids and teach them a second language. So I'm totally all for it.
Okay. I think that's interesting. When you mentioned warehouse schooling, I've never heard of that phrase before, but I find that interesting. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they brought up a good point that we're kind of discovering that we were using since COVID happened, and we don't have anywhere to put these kids. They mentioned that it was that school has become more of like a babysitting service than a place to foster education, higher thinking. And so that really that connected with me.
Yeah, I can totally see that because a lot of people too, when you bring up homeschooling, they're like, well, we could never do that because we need someone to watch our kids while we're working. So it does seem like that people just use school as babysitters so they can work during the day, which, isn't necessarily their fault. That's just the way the society is right now. But it does seem like it's much more of, it's used more as like a babysitting, caretaking thing than education.
So I'm a firm believer in the collapse, the impending doom, if you will. I hope it doesn't happen because I'm very comfortable right now, and I don't like that being challenged. But anyways, do you think homeschooling will be the norm, the social norm after a societal governmental collapse, or do you think that we'll bounce back and go right back to fucking warehouse schooling?
No, I think homeschooling will definitely be the new thing. I forget who says it, but someone has a quote that's something like, public education is the experiment. Homeschooling is just how we've always done it. But like the government school system is like, it's a relatively new function in society. Most, before public schools, everybody just learned at home through working on the farm or, just hanging out at home and, seeing what their parents do. So I think the state is always, as long as the state's here, they're always going to try to make homeschooling really difficult and public schooling really easy for families. But I'm actually more of an optimist, where I think that, especially now, since this whole COVID thing, so many parents are upset with how the public schools are handling it. Nobody wants to do the virtual schooling. Everybody who does it, for the most part, just does not like it. They see their kids at school in masks, not able to socially interact with their friends, which a lot of them say is the whole reason why they send their kids to school in the first place, is for the social interaction. And if they can't get that, what's the point of doing it? So I think homeschooling is looking a lot more attractive to a lot more families, which is, I think, a very good thing.
That was the debate with my wife and I recently, because I mean we're thinking of having one not anytime soon, but in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big discussion is like, do one of us stay home? Or do we send our kid to private school, or do we just deprogram our fucking kid every day coming back from public school? Like, hey, dude, I need you to actually tell me what you learned today so I can see what's fucked.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I know that my wife and I share slightly differing opinions on politics. She's somewhat of a constitutionalist, disgusting, and I'm an ANCAP, whatever, or black flag anarchist at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress. Do your husband? I apologize if I'm getting a little bit too personal with your relationship, but do your husband and you have differing opinions in politics?
No, I mean, thankfully, he's an anarchist too. He was always a lot more libertarian than I was. But then once I started getting into libertarianism, then we both kind of went down the anarchist path together. There's like little things that we might like disagree on, like how to go about doing something, but political, we're pretty much on the same page when it comes to politics.
That's good. My follow-up question
a lot
was
easier.
My follow-up question was that would be well, I guess now it's a statement, is it would be really hard if, like, I don't know, I was married to a gross statist and I had to we were homeschooling, and now we're arguing over what to teach our kid, what not to teach our kid. I mean, do you guys still have that conversation?
Not really, no. I'm so lucky that we're on the same page, because I've seen like homeschooling moms, complain about how their husband doesn't want to homeschool at all, or wants to make sure it's like a certain curriculum and they have to do it a certain way. And I'm just like so thankful that we don't have to, go over that, and just I think I might be a bit more lenient than he is. Like, I'm kind of more into the whole unschooling thing, where we just kind of go at the flow with what the kids want to learn without doing like a specific curriculum, especially at this age. Where I think he might be more into like an actual curriculum where you like sit down and like do times tables and shit like that. But otherwise, the subjects that we learn and stuff, and like what we teach, we're pretty much on the same page.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to teach?
Well, I have always been into like philosophy and literature. So I just like having conversations about like I don't know, like I like asking my kids questions, like open-ended questions, and just like going from there and seeing like how they go about answering certain things. I'm like not into science and math, like that kind of stuff that's like not my thing. So pretty much philosophy, English, lit, writing, art, all that kind of fruity stuff.
Right, English major.
Yeah.
What's your kid's favorite subject?
Well, we don't like sit down and have like a curriculum. So there's not like a subject, but like we have like this workbook that's just like learning, letters and sounds and stuff. And my kid, like my oldest, just gets like super excited when we do it every night, because we just do it before bed. So I think he's like, and he loves reading. So I think maybe he'll be an English major. I don't know, but and then otherwise I have a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, so they're not really doing anything other than, just playing with Play-Doh.
What do you think your kids will need to know for the near future? Like, with what you see that's happening in the country, in the world, what do you think your kids will need to know?
I think hopefully my goal is just to be able to foster in them the ability to just think for themselves and to question things. So it's not necessarily about what they know, but it's about what they, how they go about coming to a conclusion. So I don't want them to be just like watching corporate press and just believing what they see on the news as fact. I mean, otherwise, if there's like specific things that they should know about, I do think like cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, is going to be like a big thing in the near future. So, I mean, hopefully they can kind of have a head start on that compared to, most other kids.
What a fucking nightmare. I do not get it. I'll have to get that fucking kids book, dude.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. It's pretty great. But yeah, so I don't know. I just, as long as they are able to think for themselves, question authority, believe that authority isn't truth, that they'll be fine, and they'll be ahead of most other people. So
they'll be well ahead of most of the community.
Yeah.
A lot of us are still finding our way.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we get into prison shit?
I don't think so. I do think that for parents who do feel like they have to send their kids to public school, I think it is important to listen to the questions that your kids have. So like I remember in school, my teacher would tell me something and it just wouldn't sit right with me. Like it just wouldn't sound right, but I never took the steps to like question it. So I think like instead of asking your kids at the dinner table, like, oh, what did you learn at school today? You could just be like, okay, is there anything that your teachers taught you that just didn't seem right? And then like kind of like going based on their instinct and then just like, deprogramming them that way too. Because I don't think a parent's a bad parent for sending their kids to public school. I know a lot of people are like, oh, sending your kid to public school is child abuse. And I'm just like, okay, that's absolutely ridiculous. Different families need different things. And
Right.
The government makes it very difficult for people to get out of that system on purpose.
Right.
So, it's...
You have to pay for it anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And you just got to make do with what you can do. So every parent wants what's best for their kids. You just have to know how to work with, what they're giving you.
Yeah, I my parents were very like, your teacher, listen to your teacher regardless of what your teacher says, until I started coming home. And I know a lot of people, when the topic of education comes up, it was, well, we're always taught to pick either Republican or Democrat. Well, at my school it was, you're going to pick Republican, or you're going to pick a Democrat, or you're an idiot and you're a fascist Republican. So that's what I mean. I grew up in a Republican household, and that's when my dad was like, I'm gonna have a discussion with your teacher, and
Nice,
we're gonna bring lawyers into this if she says that again.
Dang, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Republicans. So, anyways, gotta Jesus. All right. Anyways, anything else?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Prison corruption. This one involves children. Figured this would be perfect for you. So, back, this officer got fired right before I got hired on, and we actually discussed it in orientation. I got to see some of the security footage and yada yada yada. But anyways, what had happened was when you visit someone in prison, it's not like in the movies where there's like a glass window between you. You're in this open room where there's tables set out, and you can have like 2 or 3 people visiting an inmate at once, and they're sitting down all together. So this particular inmate, he had his niece visiting him, and across the room there was this other inmate, and his girlfriend was visiting him, and the officer was like dirty. She was dirty as fuck, like on the fucking payroll, blah blah blah, the whole 9 yards. And she turned her back whenever this dude was getting a blowjob in the visiting room in front of everyone.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so this inmate, we'll call him H, whose niece was visiting him, he didn't notice it. but his niece
Oh, no.
sure as hell did.
Oh
And
my God.
And his niece was super, super young. And
Ugh.
so, yep. And so she witnessed that. And so later, inmate H, he gets a phone call from an angry sister like, why the fuck is my daughter talking about putting fucking penises in her mouth?
Oh my
Like, what the
God.
fuck? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, H had a fun time with that other fucking guy beating the fuck out of him.
Right? Oh, that's awful.
Yep. And so this fucking female officer traumatized a fucking child forever because she decided to fucking turn her back, and this dude fucking got his dick sucked in front of a little girl. That's the
That
fucking
is
caliber.
ridiculous.
Yep.
And I bet nothing happened with that officer too.
Oh, she got a warning. And then
she
yep.
got a warning. Okay.
Then an inmate escaped, and then she quit.
Oh my God.
So that's the caliber. I mean, yay, an inmate escaped. He was like, I don't know. He was fucking like a crack dealer or something. I don't know. But anyway, the guy who escaped.
I'll let him be. Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever. Entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I guess. But I'm
good for him.
That's the caliber of fucking officers that the state hires to, quote unquote, protect and serve, to serve the community.
Right.
Heavy quotations. Traumatize a fucking child.
Yeah, that's absolutely awful.
Yep.
But not surprising either, sadly.
Not in the slightest. Any closing thoughts for the folks before you head on about your evening?
No, but I mean, if people are questioning whether or not they're able to homeschool, I do recommend just do Google searches, find local homeschooling. Like if you're on Facebook, there's probably a local homeschool group. There are ways you can homeschool even if you work like a 9-to-5 job. So if it's something that you are really interested in, but you're afraid you're not able to do it, seriously research into it, because there's a good chance that you probably can do it.
Can they just bother you at all hours of the night and just
Absolutely.
bombard you with questions?
Absolutely.
Oh my word, I was kidding.
No, totally. I'm all for it.
You want to give your plugs?
I am on Instagram and Twitter as Lady Voluntary. I also have a Facebook page, which I'm trying to be a little bit more active on, just under Lady Voluntary. So yeah, you can find me on any of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I am Jay Flintlock. You can find me, of course, at Flintlocks for Freedom on Instagram. I am not active on Parler anymore just because it seems really sketchy to me. And so I got off that. Join us at the fucking Scumfest, dude. All right. Stay voluntary.
We the animals take control.